Hello! The purpose of this GRE text completion mini tutoring is to give you an insight into my private GRE tutoring courses. We will again focus on something you will rarely hear about, even though it is related to the most feared part of the GRE exam, the GRE vocabulary. Today we will begin learning about how to squeeze out the maximum score from your existing GRE vocabulary while managing your time properly. Learning new GRE words, the importance of which you will always hear about, should go hand in hand with maximizing the output of your GRE vocabulary at any given point in time. The latter is based on what I call the four-step think for yourself strategy. Step 1. Disregard the answer choices to avoid becoming biased and scan for direction clues, which indicate whether the blank is on the same side as or the opposite side from the clue word. Step 2. Scan for clue words which describe the blank. Use the clue word together with the direction clue and the positive-negative connotation of the clue word to anticipate the solution. This anticipated solution will be your own fill-in in any language. The formula is own fill-in equals direction clue plus clue word. Step 3. Apply the process of elimination as follows. Ask yourself the question, is the answer choice similar to your own fill-in? Finally, step 4. Guess on the most disliked word if there is more than one maybe left. Now let's consider the following incomplete sentence completion exercise. And let's disregard the choices. So the sentence goes like this. It's very simple. Peter is blank. So this is considered an incomplete exercise because it doesn't have direction clues and it doesn't have any clue words. The own fill-in formula, as we learned it, direction clue plus clue word, can lead to anything. And so any of these choices could work in this sentence. Notice that all choices are grammatically consistent. Here the choices are all adjectives. On another question, they might be all verbs. Another lesson is that you will never see such a question on the GRE because all choices are equally likely. You are not given enough information to choose a best answer. On the GRE, a text completion sentence will also give you direction clues and clue words pointing to one of the answer choices. Hence, time management lesson number 1, scan for direction clues and clue words instead of reading for content. Let's move on. What type of direction clues are there? Well, there are the same direction type clues, opposite direction type clues, extreme direction type clues, cause and effect type clues, and punctuation clues, and the corresponding notation for each of those. Now, since this is a mini training, we don't really have time to cover all these. So in the subsequent exercises, we will only have time for one type of direction clue, specifically the cause and effect type direction clue. What kind of clue words are there? The clue words, first of all, shorthanded by CW, are also named sometimes concept clues. And they have 3 different types. One word or one phrase describing the blank. Repetition of similar concepts describing the blank. Or the third one, contrasting distinct concepts describing the blank. And again, due to lack of time on this mini training, we will only cover one type of clue word, namely the one word or one phrase describing the blank type clue word. Good, let's consider variation number 1 to the previous exercise, but now it's more GRE-like. And of course, we don't want to look at the answer choices to remain unbiased. And at the same time, we want to manage time. We want to proceed quickly, so we don't want to read for content. We want to scan for direction clues and clue words. So let's scan first for direction clues. Direction clues are often next to punctuation, such as this comma. So I immediately notice the direction clue so, which is a cause and effect type direction clue. And the clue words that I will scan for, I know that they should describe the blank, and so they are usually either right before the blank or right after it. Here I will notice the word center together with the word basketball. These are two clue words that they both describe the blank. They are both positive. And according to this formula, own feeling equals to direction clue plus clue word 1 plus clue word 2, I can find out my own feeling. So somebody who is a center at the basketball team must be tall. So tall is our own feeling. It's a positive word. And now I'm allowed to look at the answer choices and proceed with the process of elimination by not figuring out what these words mean, because that's a more difficult question to my brain. So let's help our brain by asking a much more simple question. Something like, tall is most similar to which of the following choices, starting with the last choice. I will explain this later, why I always start with the last choice. So the word paranoid, first of all, it's a negative word, and I'm looking for something positive. So it's out for that reason alone. But if I happen to know what paranoid means, then I would know also that paranoid is has a different meaning than tall. So for another reason, it's also out. Let's consider with gullible, it's also a negative sounding word. So again, it's out for that reason alone. But if I happen to know that gullible, what gullible means, then I know that gullible is not tall. So again, it's out based on the meaning. Let's look at the word tall. Tall is the same, so I was lucky I got the same exact meaning. So that's a big maybe, because exact match and it's positive. Hyperactive sounds negative if I don't know what it means. If I know what it means, then that's another reason why it doesn't match tall. It's not similar to tall, so B is out. And finally, popular, it's positive sounding word. It has a different meaning than tall. It's out. So it turns out that choice C is the right choice. Okay. Now, what are the takeaway lessons from this exercise? Note 1. Even though here we have been lucky to get the exact match, exact meaning, generally we should strive only for similarity. Note 2. In case you do not know one or more words, working with positive negative connotations can save you. Note 3. In case you know other languages or you are an international student and you have trouble with both vocabulary and positive negative connotations, your own fill-in in another language or in your native language can save you. Okay? Let's move on to a different exercise. Variation number 2. Again, I don't want to read, I want to save time, so I want to scan for direction clues and clue words. Direction clues are always close to punctuation. So here, sure enough, so is again the same cause and effect direction clue. But now we have different clue words. The point of these exercises is to show you that based on the clue words I can wind up with all different kind of answer choices as solutions. So one clue word is actually a clue phrase. continually looking. And for what? For hidden danger. So it turns out I have two clue words. Somebody who's continually looking, it's something negative. Hidden dangers, it's another clue word, again negative. So our formula is own fill-in equals to direction clue plus clue word 1 plus clue word 2. And based on that, someone who continually looks for hidden dangers must be a scared person. Again, I ignore the answer choices. It's not the right idea to use them as a shortcut because you will become biased and you'll become tricked, and then the end result is a disaster. You will lose valuable points. Okay, so now at this point, when I wound up with my own fill-in, I'm allowed to match my own fill-in with the answer choices, but don't expect an exact match, as we learned it before. So our own fill-in is scared, is a negative word, and we want to see scared is most similar to which of the following choices, starting with the last one again. Let's look at paranoid. It's a negative word, so based on connotation alone, the two negatives match, so it's a maybe. Let's assume we don't know what paranoid means. Let's move on to gullible. Gullible sounds negative again. Again, let's assume that we don't know what it means, so negative with negative, so it's maybe. Always use the positive negative connotations to aid the process of elimination. Let's move on to tall. Tall is positive. I'm looking for something negative, so tall is not good. Hyperactive, it's negative. Let's assume I don't know what it means. So again, negative, negative, it's a possible solution. And popular, it's positive, and I'm looking for something negative, so it's out. So I'm down to choices B, D, and E, assuming that I don't know the meaning of these answer choices. And so the lesson, according to my notes, is the following. Note number 1, obviously learning new words is still important. So I'm not teaching you guys here these shortcut methods and squeezing out methods to maximize your output of your given vocabulary in order to make excuses for not learning vocabulary. That's not the point. The point is that we want to maximize your score both by learning new words and by squeezing out the maximum. Let's see the second learning lesson. If you do not know a word, resist the temptation to rule it out. It should be always considered as a maybe, indicated by the maybe sign on your scratch paper. Okay. And so now, you know, if we don't know these words, then the way to move on further is to guess on the word which is the most difficult, the one that you dislike the most. However, that's not always the best solution. So what you need to do here is you need to know more words, and based on that, you know hyperactive, it doesn't mean scared, so it's actually out. And gullible doesn't mean scared, it's out. So the solution should be choice E, paranoid, because you need to know more words. Okay, let's move on to something different. Okay, variation number 3. Again, I don't look at the answer choices. I want to remain unbiased. And secondly, I don't want to read, I just want to scan for direction clues and clue words. Direction clues are mostly located next to punctuation marks like this comma. So as before, I realize here is my cause and effect direction clue. And the clue words that I scan for, they should describe the blank. In this case, I elected a phrase, which is more party invitations than he can handle. Okay, so what kind of person is somebody like Peter who can have more party invitations than he can handle? Well, probably a popular person. So own fill-in again is direction clue, cause and effect direction clue plus clue word is popular. And this phrase, obviously, this is the clue phrase or clue word, it's positive. Popular is also positive. And so now I'm asking for not what each answer choice means, but I'm asking my brain an easier question. Popular is most likely similar to which of the following choices, starting with the last again. Well, paranoid is negative. I'm looking for something positive, so it's out. Gullible is negative, so I'm looking for something positive. It's out again. Tall is positive, so that could be a maybe, but I know tall is not popular, so it's out. Hyperactive, it's negative, so on that premise alone it's out, but it also means something else, so it's out. And finally, we got an exact match, although it's not a requirement. Popular, both is positive, so that's a big maybe, and that's the solution as it turns out. What did we learn from this exercise? According to my notes, when scanning for clue words, keep in mind that a phrase might better serve you, as it is usually more descriptive than a single word. Okay? Let's move on to something else. Variation number 4. Again, I disregard the answer choices. I want to remain unbiased, and I don't want to read. I just want to scan for direction clues and clue words. And next to the comma, I have the cause and effect direction clue. And again, a phrase serves me best during process of elimination as my clue word, a negative phrase which says always playing practical jokes on him, on Peter. So what kind of person is that on whom they always play practical jokes? Own feeling, direction clue plus clue word, it leads me, this is a person who is most likely naive. Naive is a negative word. That's my own feeling. I ask my brain an easy question. Naive is most likely similar to which of the following choices, starting with the last. So what about paranoid? It's negative. That could work, but it doesn't mean naive. What about gullible? Well, it's negative. Let's assume I don't know the meaning of this word. Since it's negative, I keep it. Paranoid, I eliminated it because I assumed that I knew the meaning there. Tall, I know it's an easy word. It's positive. It's not negative, so it's out, obviously. Hyperactive, let's assume that I know the meaning, so it's not naive, even though it's negative, out. And popular, it's an easy word. I know it's positive. It's not naive. It's out. So at this point, as I assumed that I don't know what gullible means, the rule is that I should always keep as maybe a word that I don't know. And in the end, I should even be able to mark it as my final solution, even though I don't know what it means, because all the other choices were eliminated based on my vocabulary knowledge. So let's see some lessons from this exercise. Number 1, the bad child rule. Well, this is the main lesson, I would say. The bad child rule says the following: the process of elimination should be started at the end, last choice meaning, contrary to the test designer's expectations. And what is the explanation to this rule, the bad child rule? Well, test designers expect us to attack choices in alphabetical order. Therefore, we will do process of elimination from the end. This will get us ahead of our competition. Although every answer choice is equally likely correct, on the difficult questions, choices D and E are more likely to be correct. Our standardized test-taking strategy should be geared towards the difficult questions. Hence, we will always start with choice E to make sure to perform well on hard questions. This way, we will gain competitive advantage. Good. Let's move on to a different exercise. Variation 5. So, variation 5. Again, let's disregard the answer choices to remain unbiased. We don't want to read. We just want to scan to save time, to manage time. So next to the comma, I see, again, the same direction clue, cause and effect direction clue, so. And then again, I elected the phrase as my clue word because it's more powerful, more descriptive as far as the description of blank goes, which is nearly impossible to sit still. That's a negative clue word. And combining the direction clue with this negative clue word according to this formula, own feeling is direction clue plus clue word. What kind of person is someone who is nearly impossible to sit still? Well, it's a hyperactive person. That's a negative word, so there is my own feeling, and I ask myself the easy question. I help my brain. Hyperactive is most likely similar to which of the following choices? So similarity. I don't expect exact match. Starting with the last choice. Paranoid, it's negative, all right, but it doesn't mean hyperactive, so it's out. Gullible, again, it's negative, but it doesn't mean hyperactive, so it's out. Tall, it's positive and it doesn't mean the same as or similar as hyperactive. And finally, again, we got lucky a little bit. We got an exact match, even though it's not a requirement. So it's negative and it's exact match, so it's a big maybe. And then popular easy word, positive versus negative, obviously is wrong. So my final solution is B, hyperactive. Let's see the takeaway lessons again from this exercise based on my notes. Be sure to use the positive negative connotations of the clue word, own feeling, and the answer choices in order to aid the elimination process. Beware. Do not look for the right choice. It is too dangerous. The process of elimination means systematically going through every single choice, starting with the last, and looking for the wrong choices. Those that you are 100% sure they are wrong must be eliminated. Okay, let's move on to another exercise. Well, actually, we're finished with this part. So, based on these exercises, let's summarize time management lesson number 2. Let's recall that time management lesson number 1 previously said that we shouldn't read, rather we should just scan for direction clues and for clue words. Okay? Now, time management lesson 2 adds to that the following. You should manage your time by chunking the sentences into phrases. Why is that? Well, the sentences you will have to answer on the test are more difficult than the ones above because they are longer. The average sentence on the GRE contains 40 words. With sentences that long, you'll have to dig to uncover the clues. The way not to answer GRE text completion and sentence equivalence questions, therefore, is to plug in each choice and read the sentence as a whole over and over until you find the answer. This process is too confusing and too time-consuming. Your brain can handle only so much information in short-term memory before it crashes just like a computer. Even reading once a lengthy sentence for clues can overload your short-term memory, making it very difficult to think clearly, if at all. So what do you do instead? Instead, scan for direction clues without reading the entire sentence, then work with chunks of sentence at a time, finding your own feeling based on the clue words discovered and eliminating as many choices as you can. You will end up moving from one chunk to another until you are left with one answer choice. Okay? And let's see the final page of this text completion mini training. And this page will contain a time management case study, which explains further what do we mean by processing sentences chunk by chunk, and how do we scan for those direction clues and clue words. Basically, we want to focus on the neighboring words near the blank. So, do not read the sentence as a whole. See how far you can get by using the words immediately before and after the blank, especially any phrases that include the blank. So the blank is center stage in this process. Now let's consider the following sentence to see how this chunk eliminate process works. Okay? Again, we want to ignore the answer choices to remain unbiased, and we want to read as little as possible, making sure that we scan for direction clues first and then clue words afterwards. Sure enough, with scanning, I realize that there is a direction clue, which is now at this time a same direction clue, not a cause and effect one. And a same direction clue means that the blank continues to be the same as the prior word. So in this case, when we have a same direction clue, here I made it in my note, for same direction clues, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, just borrow the clue word and make it your own feeling. So, okay, so in this case, the clue word is the other side of and, quickly. It's a positive word. And so my own feeling, even though formally is the sum of the direction clue plus clue word, in this case is just a plain borrowing of quickly. So now I have quickly, which is a positive own feeling. And then this word quickly is most likely similar to which of the following choices, starting with the last choice? Well, publicly doesn't mean the same as quickly, even though it's positive as well. Decisively, quickly, both of them are positive, and decisively is a big maybe. Occasionally, well, that's sort of like a neutral word. It doesn't mean quickly, so it's out on that ground. Recklessly, well, that sort of means quickly, but it's a negative word. So here the connotation will help me. So let's rule out recklessly. And then patiently is the opposite of quickly. It's positive, even though it's positive, but it's opposite. So the answer will be decisively. And notice how I didn't even read the sentence to wind up with the right solution and collecting the point. The blank was here, center stage. Okay. Now, if I would be in doubt, let's say I would contemplate between recklessly and decisively, then I can look for further clues. For example, further clues would be, here we have pronoun reference he, but he is a successful businessman. And he also took his time, so he cannot be reckless. So reckless is out, successful businessman is probably more decisive than reckless. If you are reckless, you are unlikely to be successful. So with further clues, you can move on further and resolve your problem of making a decision between recklessly and decisively. But I would say that the best method is to go with the positive negative connotations, and on that ground it's an easier solution, less time consuming solution, as I don't have to read that much. Okay, thanks a lot for your attention. For more on GRE text completion and sentence equivalence, learning new GRE vocabulary efficiently, and getting help with the other GRE sections, please sign up for my private tutoring on my website. For additional mini tutoring courses, please subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me on Facebook.